The green light is on and the first free practice session is underway for the MotoGP Indonesian Grand Prix here in Mandalika. Welcome everybody. Good morning if you're watching us live on Twitch. Good morning if you're watching us on the YouTube replay first thing in the morning. British summertime that is. Welcome along to MotoGP. Where the huge news is, yes, we are a few minutes behind on schedules. The green flag goes out. We had a red flag in the Moto2 due to a technical error out there on the circuit. All is okay now, all is up and running. But the big news coming into MotoGP is that it has officially been announced that Marc Marquez is leaving the Repsol Honda team as of the end of 2023. He will be joining the Grenesci team on the Ducati bike, riding the 23 bike. So it has been made official that he is leaving as of now. It's going to be very interesting to see throughout the weekend what we're going to have that discussion with. Alex Marquez is back after having injury with his ribs back at the Indian Grand Prix. It's being riding now. Marco Bezzecchi and Luca Marini are both here out there on the circuit as well. We know that Luca Marini is going to be evaluated. He's been declared fit. Marco Bezzecchi has also been declared fit after breaking his collarbone at the Valentino Rossi Ranch. He is going to be declared fit for FP1, but will be medically checked after this session to make sure he is A-OK. So there's a lot of pressure on this first free practice session before we go into this afternoon's practice session that decides the running order for Q1 and Q2. Susie Perry is back with the TNT gang. Let's check in with her as the riders head out onto the circuit and see all the news. Hello, Susie.
Painful, let alone ride a motorcycle.
The sneeze is the one though, Susie, because the problem with the sneeze is you know it's coming. You feel it and you think, oh, hang on, no, and then it's like someone stabbed you right in the ribs. So yeah, not good.
Fabio Quartararo, of course, did so well here last year. The conditions couldn't have been more different, though, in the wet weather. But he looked great, pole position, fastest lap of the race, on the podium. It's going to be a very brave person to bet for the same again, isn't it, Michael?
Well, he's performed some miracles in India recently, outperforming what the Yamaha can do on paper at the moment against Ducati, against Aprilia and KTM. But you just never rule out Fabio Quartararo. But I agree, Susie, I think to say that he's going to be on pole position and stand on the podium on Sunday may well be an ask too far in the current scenario, competing against the 8 Ducatis who are all super fast right now.
I guess on paper you would look and say it should be a Yamaha track. There's no really long straights, but we're in a different zone this year, aren't we, with the Ducatis? They seem to work just everywhere they go.
It's changed so much, hasn't it? Yeah, like you said, the Ducatis work. I'm smiling watching these guys ride round. They're riding around like it's wet. Yeah. It's so funny. No one's opening the throttle on lean angle. Look, they're hanging off more to get their knee down. We've not seen an elbow down yet or anything. But it's the right thing to do. They are prepared to take any risks. You can see how light the track looks. There's no Michelin rubber down yet. It's a little bit of Dunlop rubber there in the corner. So, yeah, literally it looks like they're on a damp track.
Got to be so careful here to make sure everything is okay. You can see that they're mainly running on the hard tyre at the moment. Medium front and rear for Oliveira. Marini soft front, medium rear, the same as Bagnaia. Medium Vinales. Hard front, medium rear for Marc Marquez, Nakagami, Johan Mir, Augusto Fernandez, Jack Miller and Fabio Quartararo. Juan Martin's gone hard, front and rear. And then everyone else is on soft front, medium rear, bar Raul Fernandez is medium front, medium rear, the same as Aleix Espargaro. So there's a couple of mixed strategies out there right now just to make sure that everything is A-OK in this first session as Marc Marquez continues to ride on that Repsol Honda, following the bike he'll be on next year, the GP23. As Alex Marquez lumbers up on the Grenesci, he'll have his brother back on the team as well, like in 2020 when Marc Marquez and Alex Marquez were teammates at the Repsol Honda garage. Lap time cancelled already for Maverick Vinales. Track limit, so it's a 1:36.903 set by Miguel Oliveira in this first free practice. Remember, this is free practice, so as things stand, nothing counts towards anything else for the rest of the weekend. Practice later on will be our determined point. It's Marco Bezzecchi, a 1:39.558. Johan Zarco, 1:37.866, goes 8th. but it's Mia, 136.212 from Rins, from Morbidelli. Now in air, Bastianini goes top, 136.069. Martin 5th, 136.867. So times coming down. Vinales, Nakagami, Alicia Spargo now take over at the 1-2-3 and put in Luca Marini second. Vinales, though, top, 134.813. Hello to SHG, says, hey Josh, well, Mark finally leaving Honda and will be joining Guineshi Chicali Racing. Good to see Bashi and Alex Marquez back this weekend. Throw in Luca Marini as well. Don't forget he had a broken collarbone after the Indian Grand Prix. I know, all good now. But Bezecchi riding with a metal plate up there after breaking his collarbone. He's been declared medically fit to ride in free practice 1 only. So he will be reviewed after this session. And if all is good after this session, then he'll go in for the rest of the weekend. Good to see quite a lot of them back, actually. Oh, yes, Marini as well, yep. We haven't got our usual setup here in the commentary box. I'm reading your YouTube chats off my mobile because the laptop isn't here, because it's chucking it down outside. So I couldn't bring the laptop in at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we've got the normal stuff, only one timing monitor, which is the same as what you're seeing back home. So I'm having to look down and up. As we see, Bezecchi complete a lap time and goes up to 9th, 136.681. 1.868 down on Vinales' time. Marc Marquez goes third, 135.2. Morbidelli 5th, 135.911. Augusto Fernandez, 136.003. I think that was the time. Yeah, as they come through. Nice to have SP back, Susie Perry. Jorge Martin, who's now 3 points off in the championship to Pecco Bagnaia. Could take the championship lead this weekend on the amazing run he's had. He's outscored Bagnaia in every single round so far since the summer break at Silverstone. He's come back a different man, has Jorge Martin. Stronger rider, quicker rider, and definitely up there with that of Bagnaia, who we're watching now. Last lap time, he's 17th fastest, 137.398, 3 seconds off, but he's on soft front, medium rear, so the softest possible grip. As Vinales setting better sector times, as we'll take a look at now. SSG says hopefully Rins can compete for the race as well, because he didn't do the race last time out. Nope, Rins is here. He's 14th as well, Alex Rins at the moment. And hopefully we'll be back in permanently after withdrawing, quite rightly, the Japanese Grand Prix. Crazy Japanese Grand Prix as well. As we see our full timing screen. Marc Marquez to the top, 134.161. So Marc Marquez to Maverick Vinales to Fabio Quartararo, the 1-2-3 at the moment. Bezecchi 7th, 135.875. Now drops down to 8th. Mia 4th, 134.621. Augusto Fernandez 7th. Alex Rins in 9th. Zarco goes up there into 16th. Miller 6th. Bastianini in P7. And Oliveira now taking 3rd position. As the orders begin to change, what happens to Pecco Bagnaia? Goes up into 8th position, 134.768. Let's pass over again.
Leave off, and the brand new bike is sometimes a little bit slow to start for Ducati. So perhaps in one sense that it could get a good start, but he's got to change his riding style. He's, in one sense, you could argue and say his style has always been to slightly override all the bikes he's ever had, and he's more than got away with it because obviously he's got 8 world championships. But you can't override the Ducati and all the aero. It is a very different bike. It's not a shoe-in that he's going to just come in and blitz it, is it?
I'm smiling, aren't I? You know what I think, Susie.
But the fact of the matter is, he's going to have to change some of the ways that he rides a bike and get used to that Ducati.
Absolutely, and what makes Mark so special is he has got the talent to do that. Do you remember Moto2, Marc Marquez? Wild, incredible. I loved him in Moto2. Watching him, everybody said, hey, he will not be able to ride a MotoGP bike like that. You'll see, he will not. I think he won his first year. Imagine, he won his 2nd race on a MotoGP bike. He rode that bike how he wanted to, and he'll ride a Ducati like no one else has ridden one.
I was going to say, that's the question. Can he ride a Ducati like he would want to, or does he have to ride it like the Ducati wants him to ride it?
That will be the interesting... I think we'll figure out if the Ducati can be ridden, how Mark attacks in the front. maybe it is better listening to the engineers and getting the best out of the tyres, the bike, using the aero, or Mark just riding on raw talent and raw speed as he does, attacking every single corner. I think he'll make it work with his natural riding style of just firing it at the turn, pushing the front to the absolute limit. He's going to be super fast on it, I've no doubt.
Whatever happens, it's an exciting story. It's one to watch, and you want to have the best riders up there on a bike that's possible to win a championship. It's going to be a cat amongst the pigeons, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's going to be no hugs in Port Ferme.
It's all got a bit too nice, hasn't it? Too much Mr. Nice Guy.
There's a little bit of the, let's say, the VR46 squad, and it's all great and we all train together and we all eat together and we race together and we're all friends. I like a little bit more needle. And Mark, it will be that very sharp pin.
Back on track then, Marco Bezzecchi, what have you made? What have you seen so far from the way that he's been riding? How do you feel like he's faring out there?
Actually, he's 2.6 off, but in these early laps, you're going to be tentative, and he's going to be ultra tentative because he's carrying the injury. But yeah, the shots we've seen of him coming out of turn 16, changing direction into 17, I thought, actually, he looked, front end twitch and lock there.
Yeah, Mir nearly dropped it as well. He's got a bit wide. That's the same part where Marc Marquez crashed down there at turn 10 last year in April, and lap time cancelled for the 5 of Jan Zarco for exceeding track limits. Mir will get the same thing for running out wide.
I think what's positive as well, when you see him in the garage, normally if someone's in a lot of discomfort, the first thing they're doing is they're not talking about the setting. They've already unzipped their leathers and they're not having a little play, aren't they? You go like trying to rotate their shoulder to see if they can get a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, I think the opening signs are positive.
And a positive start for Miguel Oliveira, who was obviously the winner last time out in the rain. People talking about Miguel being a possibility to go to Honda, to the factory team. What do you make of that? I mean, obviously it seems like a great fit in terms of Miguel and Honda, but he's in contract at the moment currently. But we know that contracts can be broken. Sometimes they cost money. But
if there's one thing we've learned this year, we've got Jonathan Rea, who had a contract with Kawasaki, the greatest superbike rider of all time, obviously with his 6 world titles. Jumping ship, moving to Yamaha. Obviously, Mark jumping ship, moving to Ducati. Yeah, the number one thing we've learned is contracts are, let's say, they're fluid. Look, if I was HRC, we need to fix this motorcycle. We need someone who's got a lot of experience now in MotoGP, rode for different manufacturers. He's super bright, he's really fast. I'll tell you what, when you start going through what you need, there actually aren't that many riders. But I'll tell you what, who I'd put right at the top, he's Miguel Oliveira. That'd be a class signing for HRC. So, obviously, that's a rumour in the paddock.
Well, Alberto Puig said yesterday that it's difficult, obviously, at this situation, because the riders that they would ideally like are in contract. So it's something they've got to clear up quite quickly. But Zarco is in the LCR team. Would he move up? What are your thoughts?
Would be a good fit. Obviously, Honda will have a nice little pot of money that Mark has handed back in there for them to go and break a contract with Aprilia, for example. Miguel Oliveira would be a very good fit. I agree with Neil. He's sharp, he's intelligent, he's rode the KTM, he's rode the recent Aprilia with the latest aero, so he knows what's going on inside those factories to make things work. So, yeah, it'd be a good bet.
Looking at Frankie Carcetti, could be Marc Marquez's crew chief next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, that's the side of the garage where Mark will be going. Frankie's got incredible experience, been working for lots of years. He's that old, he even worked with me. So, I mean, he has got some experience. Won the World Championship in 2020 with Joan Mir at Suzuki. So, I don't know what the final details are if Frankie's stayed. I'm sure if Frankie is asked, he'll want to stay. Imagine getting a chance to work with Marc Marquez. So fingers crossed that happens, only because selfishly I want to be able to pick. Oh, there you go, that's how quickly it goes wrong.
And down has gone Miguel Oliveira, just turns in. The front of the bike drops away in sector 3. Just a simple mistake down at turn 11 as well. It's the chicane sort of area of the track that goes downhill into a very tight bottom right-hander before flipping back up for the left at 12. So he just turns in, the front dips away from him on entry. Nothing he could have done there for Oliveira. Nothing he did wrong either. That's the lack of grip on the track. And just turns in, front dips away because he's not got the grip on the side of the tyre. Down on the deck. Nothing he could have done. Razvan Ferrari there watching on the team principal at the Crypto Data Aprilia squad. Nothing he could have done. Bike might be out of it there. We've got a lap time count up at 33 as well due to that yellow flag, but nothing at all that could have been done there. So sympathies 110% there, because it's impossible to have fixed that mess.
Yeah, it's funny. I totally agree with you. He's reached his potential. Think about this though. Right now, he's the most successful KTM rider. He's won more races than anyone else at KTM. You look at Brad Binder, who's like incredible and won races, and I know Brad's won some sprint races, or one or two, but actual main races, still to this day, Oliveira's won more Grand Prix for KTM.
Oliveira's done amazingly well, actually, for the KTM squad, don't forget. Right, SHT says, Formula E in 2024 is going to be interesting as well. Sam Bird to McLaren, Robin Freins to Envision, Johan Jaruvula leaves F2 for Formula E to join Maserati, Nick Cassidy to Jaguar, De Grassi back to App, Norman Nato to Andretti, Oliver Rowland to Nissan, Eduardo Mortara to Mahindra, along with Nick De Vries, who returns to the Formula E grid. Happy that he got a seat back in a competitive motorsport. Now left with Porsche, who still haven't announced their driver periods. From what I'm hearing with Porsche for Formula E, it'll be in a couple of weeks' time. And they were just mentioning Oliveira as well, as it says SHT, yep, and because the commentators from TNT Sports there to go down on the deck. Currently then, with 27 minutes to go, it's Maverick Vinales 132.651, followed by Jack Miller, Jorge Martin, Fabio Quartararo, Marc Marquez, the top five. This is Marco Bezzecchi down there from the medical director, saying, is all good? Any pain? Nope, no pain. That's all good then. That time cancelled as well now for Brad Binder for a shortcut.
It looked like he was saying no. He wasn't actually saying no there, was it?
Well, that was either
any pain?
Yeah, either no problem or, oh, well, no.
Yeah.
I'll finish this session, but I'm done. Oh, we'll find out more.
I think no pain, personally.
Some harsh words. I'm just looking at Aleix Espargaro there. There's some disquiet with Pol Espargaro and what's happened at KTM. Obviously, talking about contracts earlier, he did have a valid contract to race. Thought he would be racing next year, and finds himself as the test rider with some wild card races as Pedro Acosta comes in. And it all seemed quite smooth until he released a statement that actually it wasn't a mutual agreement at all, and he's kind of having to go along with it.
Those mutual decisions to separate. Obviously, he's a team player. It is the logical move, as much as Paul doesn't want it to be, but it makes sense. You've got a prodigious talent in Pedro Acosta, maybe even a generational talent. You've got to find a way to put him on a factory KTM machine branded as a gas, and it made sense to give Augusto Fernandez a second year. As a rookie, he's had a really strong season. Paul's been there. He's been key and instrumental to KTM's development. He did go to Honda. He was coming back, and then the injuries sort of ruined his season. But he's still ultra fast, and they'll pay him out. He'll have a nice contract. He'll get paid what he was supposed to get paid to race 22 rounds, and he'll maybe only have to do 6 races for it. He'll have to work behind the scenes. So he's got a family in Andorra, but he wants to race. He wants to race every single weekend. These guys are driven. They're not happy to settle for an easier life as such. They want to race every single weekend. So I do feel for Paul, but it was the logical choice in the end.
And you do wonder, in hindsight, in years to come, whether he'll look back and go, actually, I don't feel so smarted by it. Only time will tell, or something like that. But we're looking at Fabio Quartararo at the moment, Neil, who's going really well around here. And it seemed like when all these changes were made, if you looked at possibly the loser in the situation, you could argue that Fabio is, because unless anything changes at Yamaha, he's on a bike that he can't win a championship on. His teammate is going to be on a Ducati next year, and Fabio's still stuck on the Yamaha unless anything changes.
Yeah, it's going to smart, and any interview we see Fabio has done it over the past, well, probably let's say a couple of months, he's come across as incredibly negative, and you can't blame him. Fabio is one of the special ones. He's one of, I call him like the modern. We talked about the aliens in the past. You know, your Stoners, Rossies, Pedrosas. The modern day era of the alien now is, for me, it's Marc Marquez, it's Fabio Quartararo, and weirdly I'm struggling to say Bagnaia, our current champion.
Why?
Because I just don't think he's that. I just don't think he's that alien. I just don't think he's. I don't know.
Because of a mental strength?
No. I just. that absolute incredible.
Are you saying the Ducati's easy to ride?
I'm saying the Ducati is the easiest bike to ride, definitely. Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. But I think everyone does in this paddock as well. I'm not saying Bagnaia. Obviously, I'm not saying Bagnaia as bad as our current world champion is leaving the championship. He's a class act. Just, I don't see him ever do anything that I think that's unreal. Where I've watched this man perform miracles on that Yamaha, destroyed all his teammates where no one, like this man did, destroyed all his teammates, working miracles. So, yeah, I know I've gone off on a tangent like I normally do, Susie, but
right.
I think we all want. I tell you what's going to be so exciting at the start of next year. A lot of the contracts are up. Fabio's contract is up, as in the negotiations will start for the 2025 season. And the first few rounds will be really important. And who's going to make the first move? Is it going to be a surprise signing where Fabio jumps ship and all of a sudden he's got a 2-year factory Aprilia contract or whatever? There's so much for us all to get our teeth stuck into at the start of next year.
The longer it goes on, he's going to end up feeling like Mark felt at Honda.
Exactly, yeah. And can Yamaha turn it around for next year is the question. Well, everything we've seen so far leads me to say probably not.
There's a little bit of a disagreement as well, isn't there, with the test rider and Fabio and what they think. Fabio feels like we need more power. Cal feels like they need a sort of sweeter, more fluid engine.
Which they both, you can argue your case for both, but I get where Cal's coming from. Dobby said it previously that Yamaha are moving away from their strengths. Their DNA has always been a sweet handling chassis with a good usable power delivery and chasing the extra horsepower. They've lost a little bit of that, but the game has changed. So I agree with Fabio in a way. If Yamaha can't build me what I need, I'm off, were his words. So he's either laid down an ultimatum that he wants a V4 engine or he wants an aero heavy bike, or Suzuki built an inline 4 engine that did accelerate better than Yamaha, did have better top speed than Yamaha, so it can still be achieved with the inline 4, and Yamaha staying with their DNA, and they've got some new engineers in there. Tom O'Kane's in the background. They're working hard with Cal on the test program, and I hope Yamaha can actually bring something to the table that allows Fabio to be back to the Fabio of old.
One thing to add to that as well, having spoken to Cal on numerous occasions, he said, Neil, you can't believe how little testing we do. Still, now, I'm not testing, we do hardly anything. And Cal's going, keep saying to them, I want to test. Come on, I'll test more. Imagine we're in this situation, you need to improve your bike, you're so far behind the Ducatis. The Ducatis are out testing constantly, they're always out, aren't they? Well, I know actually Pirro's broke his ankle. I was about to say, Pirro's probably in Misano now riding around. But,
well, he would be if he wasn't injured, Well, he'd be here in case anything happened, obviously.
Yeah, there is a tyre allocation that limits the number of laps they can do over a season with MotoGP tyres, and I bet you can't use every single one of those tyres, and they'll use some of them for 60 laps to make sure they extract the maximum they can. And it is Misano, Mugello, they just put the work in all the time.
Constantly professional.
So far for Luca Marini. Got to be pretty happy with that in the first session.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back from a broken collarbone, so where did he do that? India, wasn't it? Yeah, was that the first corner crash? I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, sorry, there's been that many injuries. Sorry, I'm laughing. There's been that many injuries, though, hasn't there, this year that it's hard to remember who got hurt where. What about this man? Now, talk about someone impressing me. Look, we've seen Jorge Martin chase down this man, but his ride in Japan is the best ride I've ever seen him do, because he's not a wet weather specialist. When it started to pour down, I bet this man was licking his chops on the grid thinking, okay, I've got this. But Jorge Martin risked everything. He took that race by the scruff of the neck, and because they had no wet weather practice, just destroyed them. Very impressive.
The mental zone that he's in, that box that he's in, if he can stay in that zone, you have to put your money on Martin, wouldn't you? But is it possible over the duration for the rest of the season?
On current form, you could not argue against Jorge Martin taking this title. It is, you found the sweet spot. Confidence is such a phenomenal thing, and he's riding it at the moment. He's on a crest of a wave, and as Neil mentioned, going and doing something that he's never been good at. he was just going to make it happen because of where he's at in his career, in his mindset. He's just, everything's aligned for him. The bike's working good, the team are working perfectly for him. He's proved everyone wrong that he deserved the factory Ducati ride that went Bastianini's way, and now he's out there going to win a title. So he believes everything's happening this year, and yeah, you wouldn't argue against him.
No, you wouldn't. And if you look at, I mean, obviously the race was at a different time of the year last year, but he crashed out of this race in the wet. And Bagnaia only got 1 point. So between the two of them, this is, you could call it a bogey track, even though we've only been here once. And conditions very different. We're not expecting any rain this weekend. In fact, it hasn't rained for 7 months on the island. It's
Sorry, Susan.
That was a moment.
Oh, this is a big one. Oh, thankfully.
Mark just running off the track there, turn 2.
With that moment there, he's still, though, just how slippy the track is. Oh, he was lucky there. That was starting to be. If they'd gone much further in the rear, that would have been shades of last year.
I was just thinking the same this morning warm-up, rear coming around on entry.
Watch this. Tips it into here now. Close swell. Way up. That's like a nice feeling. That got his attention. Yeah, one thing about what I also like about the championship battle is, and I've had a few people ask me this question, but Neil, let's be honest, it's a win-win for Ducati, because Ducati win the championship, and I'm like, whoa, do not be mistaken. If the factory Ducati get beaten by the satellite team, they will be devastated. They'll be devastated. Don't get me wrong, we will interview Paolo Ciabatti, Davide Tollazzi, what we say in Valencia. Let's say,
and they'll all say the right things.
They'll all say the right things, but
what do their sponsors think? What do the sponsors of the factory Ducati think, being beaten by a satellite? There are things. It's a political hot potato.
It really is. I rode for a satellite team in World Superbikes, a GSE racing team. You can remember we bought bikes off Ducati. We were supplied year-old bikes, and they hated us when we beat the factory team. The tension, the stress.
Didn't they just hate you though, anyway?
There was a bit of that going on, but then obviously, and I remember back then they'd be interviewed. Strangely enough, again off YouTube.
It would have been me, yeah.
And they'd say all the right things. The same individuals, Paolo Ciabatti, Davide Tollazzi. They go, oh no, it's great, because basically what it shows is how good we built this motorcycle, and we're really happy.
We're happy to take credit for it, but underneath the teeth are grinding a little bit.
Absolutely, and I quite like that dynamic as well.
And that is only going to get worse next year.
With this man.
With this man. Surely, I mean, Grassini must be thinking, oh, we haven't got to worry about sponsors next year now, right? Because they should be knocking on the door.
You would imagine, obviously, whenever they became an independent team, moved away from the factory Aprilia squad, had their own grid entries again. It has looked sparse in terms of sponsorship on the side of the machine, and they've gone with the light blue San Marino livery. I do think it will be a change, whether it's an Estrella Galizia or a Red Bull or something. There'll be a big blue chip sponsor on the side of the Grassini Ducati next year, you would imagine, and it will be brought in by this man, because he is it's a mouthwatering prospect to have a satellite team with machines provided by Ducati, year-old bikes that will win races, and you can build the team from scratch.
There's going to be some beard striking.
Me and Gav were talking yesterday, we were laughing, we were walking through the paddock and we saw Carlo Malini, what's his job, Gav? He's the commercial director. Basically, he sorts the sponsorship out, right? And the Grassini team is a well-established team, it's a fantastic team. But, like all teams in this paddock, it's a struggle year on year to try and find big sponsors. It's a lot of money. And you can imagine what he's gone through over the years. He's been with the team. He'll have been on so many flights to meet so many huge companies and be messed around, let down, like all teams have. I wonder how hot his phone's been over the last week. Do you know how the conversations will be like this? Oh, Carlo, remember that conversation we had a couple of months ago? No,
where we said no. We meant
where
yes.
we said no. No, we want to. No, can we meet again, though? Can you imagine what a lovely feeling it must be for him now? Because he's got another problem. He's now fighting off people. He's now juggling massive sponsors. What a great position. I feel so happy for him. And I've also thought this. Do you know what I feel really happy for? I know this will sound strange. Is Fausto Grassini, the late Fausto Grassini, who built this team and has done a fantastic job. Live, breathe, love. Unfortunately, we lost him due to COVID. But I what an incredible guy he was, absolute gentleman. How proud he would be to think that he's going to end up with one of, if not the greatest of all time in his team. I don't think he'd have ever thought that was possible.
And there's been this rumour going around that Mark would perhaps like to purchase the team. Do you think that's got any legs?
It's possible. He could purchase a stake in it, perhaps, and yeah, I think that was maybe more to facilitate the deal. Maybe he was going to have to do something like this, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is any legs behind that. Obviously, Nadia Padavani has grabbed the team with her siblings, her children, and they are. It seems like they're very embedded in running the team themselves, but having a character like Mark come in, it adds a serious amount of clout to bring in sponsors into making the team more commercially viable and yeah, selling it and making it profitable all round.
It's definitely been interesting to have heard some of those conversations, but they've done a great job with that team, haven't they?
Great job.
Over the last few years. Maverick Vinales sitting pretty at the top of the table with nearly just under 14 minutes to go now. Why do you feel this track is working well for him?
This is when you look on paper, it's an Aprilia track. It's clearly at the moment as well. This Aprilia works well on fast-flowing corners. It went well in Argentina, obviously Silverstone, Barcelona, low grip track. So on paper, when I looked before anyone turned the lap, I thought this track will definitely suit Aprilia.
Here we go, 1-2.
Yeah, and then also you think with Maverick, I feel like he needs to do something. He's having a strong season, but he's been overshadowed by his teammate, and don't get me wrong, Alesia's had a fantastic season, but there's been so many Maverick moments again this year where he's had a solid weekend, qualified well, didn't quite happen. Maybe this is an opportunity for him to turn that round and let's say outperform his teammate and get a win.
And I suppose in comparison to last season, you know, which was brilliant for Aleix, he wants that sort of spotlight on him. Just looking at the shots again of Bez, I mean, we can't underplay how big this session is for him. He doesn't look like he's in any pain at all. I'm sure he must be. Or will the adrenaline be dissipating the pain?
Not on a Friday morning. Yeah, he's going to be feeling it, no doubt. Even the wind to get him to open, to have surgery, you've got some stitches in there, and that's uncomfortable under leathers. And you will put extra foam or something in over the shoulder to protect it a little bit, but it's going to be uncomfortable without a doubt.
He's not doing a bad job. But the issue is he's 2.3 seconds off. The problem is as the track rubbers up, it gets grippier. You put more forces through your body. It actually becomes harder, not easier, as the track cleans up. And if you end up in a situation where, let's say, Bez is a couple of seconds off, you're sort of out of the points, and that's the way MotoGP is. It's really tight, as we know. The top 10's normally covered by 0.4 of a second, the top 20's covered by a second. So
I guess though it's great for him that this is a free practice session. It takes that element away that we had at the start of the season of having to do one every single session. He can cruise a little bit in this session, just see how he feels, Mike.
Yeah, no pressure to set a lap time in the last 10-15 minutes, as was the case previously. So this is a full free practice, doesn't count towards Q2 qualification. So it does take the pressure off. He can wait for the track to rubber in before he takes any risk. Just surveying the situation, making sure that the grip is there on those fast corners. We've seen moments from front ends of the machine, rear ends of the machine, so I think Bezzecchi will be just having a little bit of keeping his powder dry right now.
And the Martinator coming here with all the momentum.
Wow.
How much do you think this is being fueled by the of not getting that factory ride? I hate to go back to it, but he does mention it a lot still in interviews.
yeah, do you know what?
It's fueling him, isn't it?
It's so funny you say that, because I thought exactly the same. At one point, at the start of the season, he was still mentioning it, and I thought, let it go. But you know, we all know.
But maybe not.
No, and this is what is needed. We all know what riders are like, and sometimes they just need the strange thing. It was just like what I said earlier about Pecco's comments about Mark for next year. Pecco was basically saying, well,
He'll be in the top 5.
maybe in the top 5. I don't think he'll really basically fight for the championship. And to which I'm like, don't poke the bear.
I know.
And that's because literally, Mark will have that printed in his motorhome on the wall. Because you just know what he's like, don't you? You know, that's riders use certain things for motivation, and that's sort of how fickle they are. And for this man, his motivation is, I'm going to prove to Ducati how wrong you were for signing Enea Bastianini. I'll tell you what, it's working, isn't it?
It is. Because especially in Italy as well, there is a big thing about being in that number one factory team. As much as it's, great to say, well, he's up there in the what is a semi-factory team, let's call it, shall we? Because we know it's very different to the privateer teams of old.
Yeah, he's got full factory machinery under him, so it's the same bike as he would have had if it was painted bright red in the factory Ducati corner. But it is the backup. He's contracted. Oh, Alex getting a little...
Same point as well, isn't it, on the track there as a tipping in. It's a very technical part of the track, but that was close.
But I wonder how much he's physically being hampered by those ribs, because you can't, like we were talking at the start of the session, you can't move freely when you've had broken ribs.
No, you just can't ride how you do normally, and like you said, that riding free, you do everything a certain way, and that's the bike gives you information and feedback and feel and confidence and understanding. I'm just trying to hear what he's saying.
Yeah, just trying to stick it. He's pitting in, what was he, sixth or coming into sixth.
So yeah, we've got some walking. Whoa, everyone's having moments. That's turn 7. That's the Marquez crash corner from crash corner. There we go. I've said it from last year, and that's quick. It's 20 miles an hour. Lots of riders we're seeing having the same, let's say, moments, but in different parts of the track. The rears are coming round, aren't they?
And it's a horrible feeling, the off-throttle, rear walking around sensation, because you can't always catch them, and whenever they go a little bit too fast, moments happen, like Mark in Modern Warm-Up last year. So just
great kick.
Love that.
Quite nice. Clever.
That's his merchandise, you know.
Fabio merch.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
I'll imagine if it was, that'd be funny.
They're making their own these days. Just a shout out to Enea Bastianini, who's top 5.
Wow, yeah.
Coming back from injury as well, and I mean, it seems like we've been saying that all season, unfortunately.
What a season.
For Enea, it's ruined his year, hasn't it, really? But to see him in the top 5 is fantastic.
I feel sorry for him. I know obviously the last injury was his fault, because he caused that crash in Barcelona, going the first lap up the inside and wiping quite a few people out. But yeah, what a season to forget, because it's a dream for a young Italian to, he stepped up to MotoGP, impressed everybody, and got the dream. He signed for the factory Ducati team.
It's not the opposite of Jorge Martin's year, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the dream turned into a nightmare. And the only good thing for him now is he has to start now preparing for next year. So you've got 6 races to go. You have to try and build some confidence, some feeling for the motorcycle, and actually some harmony in the team, and then focus on, right, we've got to start next season good, because contracts are up.
I kind of wanted to see a KTM, because I wanted to talk to you. Jack's in the top 10. Brad's sitting in 18th at the moment. I wanted to talk to you about the chassis and about how it works. I know you're pointing at Michael.
I'm looking at Michael.
Let's you and I do this chat about this.
The carbon fibre frame. Interesting.
In terms of the flex that it brings, because obviously normally you'd want it to be as stiff as possible, but where does that flex help the bike?
So it's middle of the corner. So these machines, whenever they're at 60 degrees lean angle or so, they don't actually, the suspension doesn't move. The tires are quite rigid in the sidewall, so they don't flex too much. So you need a little bit of bend from the chassis at lean angle, so lateral flex from the swing arm, from the frame. That helps the bike hook a little bit around the corner. So it's almost like a banana effect. The bike bends a little bit. It's not huge amounts of bend, but then the flip side is when you pick the bike up, you need the drive grip, so you don't need any torsional flex, so you don't want it to twist. So you need rigidity around the swing arm pivot. Then when you hit the brakes, you don't need longitudinal flex, so that needs to stay stable. You need the rigidity for direction change for hard braking. So it's a really difficult puzzle to put it all together with aluminium. You have to go really thin with the aluminium beams. Obviously KTM have used steel tubes that they've been 3D printing thinner and thinner, and because it's a stronger material, they could go smaller and smaller. But they can't decouple the flex from one direction to the other as easily as you can with carbon. So carbon fibre, they can lay the fibres in a certain direction, they can achieve the flex at lean angle, they can achieve the rigidity on braking, on direction change and on drive grip. So in theory it is the correct material to build a chassis with if you know exactly what you want to achieve. KTM have got the 7 years of experience now. They know what they want to achieve, and they've done just that. They've built a chassis that has improved on their steel tubular frame.
I think that was well explained.
Why couldn't you say that?
I think that was well explained.
Cheers, Dave.
I was going to go, they've done it in carbon fibre because it looks good.
It does look good.
It looks way faster.
There is that. It is pretty.
I tell you what, I'm going to listen to that answer back on a thousand times and try somehow to copy it, but I think I might get it wrong. That is definitely not what you need with broken ribs. Thankfully, it looks like a relatively slow one down at turn 1.
You don't want to pick the bike up with those ribs.
Alex Marquez gone down in the first corner. Front's gone away from him.
I want to ask that question because it's
Here it is. Come on, entry then. Turns in. Bottom first gear, right hander. Yep, front dips away from him and drops it away as Binder loses his lap time again for a shortcut.
And like Mike said, you say no warning. There's no information coming back from the front tyre. You're trail braking in normally, and then it just goes. It's like you've run over some oil or a tear off or something. It's the worst feeling, and it's a real confidence zapping crash.
It's actually quite an angry little track, this, in some senses, in the fact that it's, catching riders out in every class.
It's very, very difficult, Susie. Yeah, it is. And do you know what? All the riders won't be enjoying this at all, because you are riding on a knife edge always. You're not too sure where the grip is. You're not getting the feedback from the tyres. And then, like we talked about, a lot of the rear slides are all the similar. Off-throttle ones, they're scary because you're not in control of it at all. You're tipping, you've got no throttle on, so you're not accelerating, so you're not expecting the rear to come round. Then all of a sudden that steps out on you and you go, oh! But normally why an off-the-throttle slide or high side is much worse. When you're on throttle, you're in control, so the rear of the bike starts to step out, it spins, you control that by just roll the throttle off. When you're already off the throttle in the rear slides, there's nothing you can do apart from try to pick the bike up, but it can come round that quickly that you don't even get a chance to even try that when you're over the bars.
Oh, look who's in the garage. Mr. Marquez.
Yep.
Julia Marquez, Mark's dad, just getting into his new home there.
It will be very much a family affair with Julia overlooking both his boys inside the pit box. And I don't think we've ever had two brothers as teammates in MotoGP previously. Obviously, we've had a lot of brothers in there with Alex and Mark and Paul and...
Yeah, they did it in 2020.
Together in the same team. I'm just looking at Gav, actually. We're both scratching our heads.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Oh, yeah, Kenny Jr. and Curtis. Yeah.
Hey,
well
there
done.
we go. You can always rely on Gav.
It's turning into Martin Rains. Brilliant.
You can rely on Gav. So what is going to be interesting as well is Sam and Alex Lowe's. I know they're not in the same team. That's going to be interesting watching them two race against each other next year in World Superbikes, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Interesting, maybe is not the word. Scary.
Scary.
I'm sweating already.
Good for Julia Marquez, though. He doesn't have to do so many steps because he can just go to one garage rather than having to split himself in two all the time. But here he is then, the man that everybody's talking about. We started the session talking about Marc Marquez moving to Ducati next year.
I'm going to ask you a question then, Susie. I'll ask, and Michael then. So then I'll ask a question. Can he next year? Can he win the world title? Will he? What's your?
Are you asking me if he can win another world title, or
No.
are you being specific about next year?
Next year. Will he win next year, Susie Perry?
Well,
You've been in this paddock for 20 years.
26.
26 years. You know what?
You old dog, you.
Come on. No fence sitting.
I like the fact that I genuinely don't know, but I would say he definitely has a chance. And I love the fact that...
I want a yes or no answer.
You can't know. How can you know? Because you don't know how he's going to be on the Ducati.
Nobody knows.
Anyway,
Oh,
can I just
here's the
say before I
fight.
ask the questions?
Yes or no? Come on.
I'm really looking forward to it next year.
You too.
Typical.
Yes.
Jorge Martin goes to the top, 131.811.
that will come in and say that he's going to make everyone look stupid. I mean, that is a big ask, Neil. What do you think?
I think yes. I don't think he'll make people look stupid, as in, but I think he will win the championship.
Do you?
I'm just going to look at Gav. Oh, Gab's doing some research.
What about, it might take a year.
Oh no, Gab's still talking about two brothers in the team.
And Martin has matched his personal best in the first sector. Literally to the thousandth of a second. That's incredible, as Alex Marquez decided he won't get out of the pit lane in time as the red light goes on now. Checker flag is out, so the session concludes for free practice number 1. Martin a little bit down, so Miller goes 6th, Mia goes 17th, Nakagami goes 11th, lap time Cantor for Oliveira for a shortcut. Out there on the second position. Oh, huge off there for Marco Bezzecchi. And that's not what he wanted. He's straight up walking away. Doesn't look injured at all. But coming down into turn 11, where we've seen 2 accidents already, the front just flew away from the bike. Flew straight off into the gravel. It's actually ended at the other end of the gravel trap. Just turns in and the bike just drops on the front. He skips through the gravel. Goes a little bit of a tumble. Oh, it did go over his neck. I wonder if that's going to hurt his collarbone a little bit more. He is due to be reviewed after this first practice session, of course. Let's get the thoughts of TNT.
That is what he wanted in this session, and he's been doing everything to not do that.
Yeah, and those are the moments we've seen front end just washing away. He hasn't done a lot wrong. He was pushing, he was going fast because he thought the track was coming to him, but that's a better sign. Obviously, he was carrying his arm as he initially walked away. And it looks like he's walking reasonably freely, but yeah, that'll just increase the nerves inside the VR46 garage.
Yeah, just a few bits there going in. Lap-time cancer for everybody who's involved in that, because obviously it's a yellow flag zone, so nobody else is going to be improving on the lap time. Luca Marini's exactly a second off that pace though, so thumbs up there for a good time on the board. Jorge Martin 131.811 then. He is fastest at the moment here. That record here is a 1:31.067 set by Fabio Quartararo last year, of course. He only raced here once before. So a few little things to be ironed out here, but the full running order has now been confirmed. Here it is at the end of the first practice session. It's Jorge Martin on a 1:31.811, followed by Maverick Vinales and Aleix Espargaro in the top 3. Franco Morbidelli's in 4th, with Marco Bezzecchi 5th. Pecco Bagnaia 6th, Jack Miller 7th, Brad Binder 8th, and Airbash in 9th. Luca Marini rounds out the top 10. Fabio Di Giannantonio is 11th, Fabio Quartararo is 12th, Takiki Nakagami goes in 13th, Marc Marquez 14th, Johan Zarco is 15th, Augusto Fernandez 16th, Raul Fernandez 17th, Johan Mir 18th, Miguel Oliveira 19th, Alex Marquez 20th, Alex Rins 21st, and Paul Espargaro is 22nd. Stepping back to TNT as we get ready to close up the session.
Out the top 10, Fabio Quartararo just outside the top 10 in 12th. Obviously, it doesn't really matter in this session because it is a free practice session. But what have we learned from this one?
Well, I think what we thought about this track is going to suit the Aprilia's low grip, fast flowing corners. I think they're going to be a threat. Of course, this man has brought that confidence forward that he's been carrying for the last 4 or 5 rounds. And then the rest, it's hard to pick, isn't it? Really, it's quite impressive seeing Bez up there. Obviously, just having had that crash, and Enea Bastianini, I know we mentioned him, but impressive there in 9th. Luca Marini coming back from injury, so yeah, it's wide open. But this is the man they've got to try and get some control over, because he's running away with it.
It's a great fight. It's a fantastic battle with 6 races to go between these 2 riders. Really is something to relish. When you look at the championship, like for example Formula One's just been won, they've still got another 5 races I think to go, and 6 races to go because he won it on the sprint day. But we're lucky.
It's great. We didn't see it coming. Obviously, there was a point in the season we thought Pecco's got into his stride. He's got a nice points cushion. He's not going to make any mistakes. No one's going to challenge him from here. And the wheels fell off his wagon. He's made a few too many unforced errors over the last 2 seasons, for my money.
Were you a bit surprised in India when he clearly had a problem with the bike because it looked awful and they weren't able to fix it for him in India? Obviously, when they came to Japan, it was a different story, but all weekend he had to, what seemed like riding a knife edge.
Yeah, he never looked like himself at all. We've seen him occasionally throughout the year in the first practice session be slightly off and not look himself, but then throughout the weekend he always finds it, but not at any point did he look comfortable on that Ducati.
Bez coming in now. Dr. Charles will be waiting to see how he feels about moving on. I mean, you can tell from his body language reckon he's going to say, I'm all right, I'll give it a go?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, we've got the practice start, so he didn't even stop with Dr. Angel Charte, but he will have a little debrief with him. Yeah, it's worrying because, you cast your mind back to whenever Marquez came back after breaking his arm a week later in Jerez and then further compounded his injuries. But it is a collarbone different than the humerus that was Mark's injury. So this was a fairly innocuous
protected
slide.
It well, actually, didn't it?
Yeah, but it's the barrel roll. He could have done more damage. You can see, actually, he's put a hole in the hip of his leather, so he spent so long on the side of his on his hip. And it is the stone is quite abrasive here, so I think he's okay, but it'll still be slightly nervous times.
So we're practicing starts again, which is probably not a bad idea because the track's so dirty. I mean, it might help to try and clean a bit of the area. I'm not a fan of the practice starts, by the way, Susie. I struggle to deal with the concept of it. Well, I've got quite a few issues with it. One of the biggest problems for me is when you normally how it works. When you start a race, if you are leading, you might have a look and try and have a bit of a braking marker. The rest of the riders all react to that person. That's how it's always been, that sort of racing. The problem you're getting is, when we had it in India, we had a couple of practice starts, and then, by then, bear in mind you started individually, you've actually worked out a perfect braking marker off the start line for turn one. So the problem is then, so as you're all attacking turn one in the group, you're trying to keep an eye on where you think your marker is. And then all of a sudden, someone's grabbed the brake 10 metres before you're expecting, and that's what we saw. We saw in the sprint race, 2 major collisions, and I'm blaming the practice starts. That's one of my problems. The other one is, I don't know why we need to practice starts. These are the best riders in the world. I understood at Silverstone why we did, because turn one you don't brake heavy, and they were trying to check if you could disengage the front ride height device, which they activate on the start line. But at this track, it's not 180 degrees, it's like a 90-degree corner, the first corner, so you are braking heavily enough, so that's not an issue. And my other question is, so the MotoGP riders have requested this, they need to practice the starts, and it's really important for them, especially in India, because they'd not really practiced what it was like into that first corner. But the Moto3 boys didn't get to practice, or the Moto2 boys didn't. But it's okay for them to not practice, but we're the MotoGP riders, we need to practice our starts to turn one. It's one of those things that it's a bit faddy.
Love, are you awake?
I'm listening.
I know, sorry.
Neil have his little rant there.
I just think it creates more problems than cures.
What do you think?
I'm in agreement actually with Neil. I don't think it's necessary, but I understand the reason why the riders ask for it because of these lowering devices and all the aero and changing the dynamics. But whenever you do it as a single person start, then you get what Neil talks about. Everyone's now getting a new braking zone for it. The only way to practice a start is to have everyone, all 22 riders lining up together, and the lights go out, and that maybe gives you a little bit of something, a bit of understanding of the effect of the aero and dragging everyone in and the potential collisions. So yeah, I don't think it's that necessary, to be honest.
Like I say, I actually think it's more dangerous.
No, it's an interesting point you put forward there, Neil.
What will be interesting is we'll see what happens in the first corner. They're still practice the starts. I guess they're going to do it again tomorrow. The more we practice the starts, the more crashes we've seen.
We've never had so many first corner problems as this season, have we?
No, there's a couple of things going on, and I'm not being flippant about what I'm saying. I genuinely believe makes it worse, not better. But as we know, the racing's really close. We've got the issue with the front tyre temperatures going up too high, so it's the double effect, right? It's made the start even more important. But it also means all the riders are starting with a very, very low pressure in the front tyre. So when you go into the first corner, you're nearly on. It's not flat, I'm not going to exaggerate it, but it's that low that the bike doesn't handle great. So as you attack turn one, you've got the front ride height device down, you've got the rear ride height device down, you've got essentially a flat front tyre, and then you've to try and thread the eye of a needle in turn one, pass or be pass. That's what the issue that we've got going on.
And you just sort of talked about tyre pressures there a little bit. We should probably just touch on that around this track and the heat here.
Yeah, I really don't agree with the new front tyre pressure limit that's being enforced because it is hurting racing. in these temperatures, it's quite a hard braking track, not one of the heavier braking tracks, but front tyre temperature will be an issue, as it has been over the last few rounds. So you're always starting with maybe 50% lower than you want to be optimally on track, because it's going to grow when it's out there, the load that's going into these tyres with all the aero and the braking forces. So yeah, it's going to be something that the riders are considering already. We've seen Jorge Martin at the end of that session try a hard front tyre, so it could be up in the harder range, low pressure, and trying to calculate it as best as possible what pressure they should start the race with.
It's a horrible feeling, that flat front tyre feeling. Yeah. And anyone who's ridden even a bike on the road, you'll know that sensation where if you've ever had a puncture. Imagine that's essentially what it feels like. They're breaking into turn one, but obviously then the tyre pressure goes up quickly on that opening lap, but into turn one is the most difficult period. And unfortunately, that's why we've seen so many crashes and injuries. Great on boards. They are like drag bikes now, though. Look at how this sport has changed. And it feels like in a blink of an eye. Now that you look at these motorcycles, obviously we've had aero for a while, but when we watch these bikes on the start now, there's very little wheelie. The bike is essentially a drag bike. It's low, it's long. The electronics work so well now because we've had years of this playing with the ride-out devices, and the teams and the electronic engineers have got their start strategies so well dialed that they just, when you stand on pit wall and stand and watch one of these bikes set off, it's breathtaking. We saw the acceleration against what Red Bull did against the Formula One car. I mean, the MotoGP bike absolutely destroyed it.
They've improved it by almost 20%, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. Yeah, since they used to start at like an average start was 2.5 seconds, 0 to 100. Now they do it in 2 seconds. 2.1 is a bad start. 2.2, it's phenomenal the speed that they accelerate from.
Absolutely incredible. These bikes certainly are. Okay. That wraps it up then here for the first practice session. We'll be back at 7:55 British summer time for all of the action from practice. That's live on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, the practice 2 airs directly after this. And Marco Bezzecchi will now get analysed to see if he is okay. He was going to be analysed anyway after this first practice session, going into the rest of the weekend after, of course, he broke his collarbone. But a crash in this session is just going to extend that as well. Pecco versus Jorge Martin, though, in the championship, looking very close. Martin, first blood here at Mandalika. He tops the first free practice session. Next up, though, 60 minutes of practice to determine the running order to see what is going to happen in qualifying's 1 and 2's running order. Thanks for your company. It's Martin from Vinales and Alicia Spargo in the top 3. We'll see you later after the lunch break. Bye-bye.